In the north of Italy, in the quiet streets of Treviso, there's a dessert that was born not in a palace, but in a family kitchen. A dessert meant to lift your spirits, literally. Tiramisu, they called it. Pick me up. In the late 1960s, at a small restaurant called Le Beccherie. Welcome back to Tano's table. Today we're making tiramisu, the dessert so iconic it should honestly have its own passport. It's creamy, fluffy, coffee-soaked perfection, and if Mario and Luigi approved my risotto, trust me, this is the dessert they'd inhale after saving Princess Peach. I'll show you the techniques that guarantee success, even if you've previously ended up with a soggy coffee brick, a mascarpone soup, or something that looked like it lost a fight with gravity. Today, that ends. Before we even start mixing eggs and sugar, let me say this loud and clear. Tiramisu works only, and I mean only, with savoyardi. Call them ladyfingers, call them biscuits, call them the backbone of Italian desserts, but without them, you're basically building a house on wet sand. Today we're making them from scratch, but always have a plan B ready. If your first batch doesn't come out the way you want, don't panic. Even the best pastry chefs keep a pack of savoyardi hidden somewhere like it's contraband. Alright, let's get started on the savoyardi. Before you even think about combining the wets and the dries, get everything portioned, measured and ready to go. Savoiardi wait for no one. For the top coat, that signature snowy finish, mix cornstarch with powdered sugar. This gives the biscuit that classic crisp exterior once they hit the oven. Now, when choosing your flour, there's only one answer. Farina doppio zero. Savoiardi aren't just any biscuit, they're engineered like the Italian Formula 1 of sponges. And doppio zero flour is the secret behind their texture. It's extremely finely milled, low in protein, low in gluten development, which means the batter traps tiny air bubbles when whipped with eggs. Those bubbles bake into the classic Savoiardi structure. Crispy outside, airy inside, full of micro pockets that soak espresso like a dream. Next, we need to separate the eggs carefully. If you want to increase your chances of success, use the same technique I do. Let the whites slip through your fingers. It's oddly therapeutic and almost foolproof. Just make sure not a single drop of yolk sneaks into your whites. One drop and your meringue will collapse faster than a Jenga tower in an earthquake. Once everything is prepped, your counter should look like a working bench that Mr. White and Jesse Pinkman would approve of. Minus the questionable substances, of course. Alright, let's kick things off with the egg yolks. In a bowl, combine the yolks with a portion of your sugar and whisk until the mixture turns pale and fluffy. How do you know you've beaten them enough? Dip your spatula in. If the mixture falls off in a smooth, uninterrupted ribbon, you're good. If it breaks, clumps, or looks like it's having a bad day, keep whisking. Now for the egg whites, part where Savoiardi either rise like champions or flop like a failed magic trick. Start by whipping the whites without sugar. You want them almost ready, about 80 to 90% of the way there, before adding anything else. Once they're nearly at stiff peaks, start adding the sugar slowly, painfully slowly, molecule by molecule. If you dump the sugar in right away, the whites lose their volume, collapse, and you end up with a dense, sad meringue flatter than a cartoon pancake. To know when the whites are ready, lift the whisk. If the tip of the meringue stands up like a proud little mountain, you're done. Set them aside and clean your workbench. Yes, actually makes a difference. A clean workbench equals a clean mind, equals fewer mistakes, equals fewer existential crises mid-recipe. Next, to add extra airiness to the Savoiardi, sift the potato starch and doppio zero flour. I sift twice, not because I'm fancy, but because it guarantees the mixture is light, airy, and ready to fold beautifully. Now comes the part where I always wish I had 4 arms, but if you're flying solo like me, don't worry, it works just as well. You just need to think ahead. We're going to combine the yolks, the whites, and the dry ingredients in 3 phases. Start by adding 1/3 of the whites into the yolks and fold gently from bottom to top. Before the whites are fully incorporated, add 1/3 of the flour starch mixture. Repeat this dance, whites, then dries, until everything is combined. When you're done, you should have a smooth, airy batter that clings to your spatula like it's afraid of heights. Transfer the mixture into a piping bag and pipe classic ladyfinger shapes onto a baking sheet. Dust generously with your cornstarch plus powdered sugar mixture. Pop them into a preheated oven at 230 degrees for about 9 minutes. And now, watch them like a hawk. Do not open the oven. Savoiardi go from perfect to burn faster than you can say Mamma Mia. Remember when I said to always have a plan B? Well, I should have gotten acquainted with this oven before attempting pastry. They still taste amazing, but they didn't rise to the level I wanted. So thank you Contraband Savoiardi for the rescue. Let's talk coffee, the lifeblood of tiramisu. Italians don't use a Vialetti mocha pot because it's cute, nostalgic, or because every nonna has one welded to her soul. They use it because it produces the exact kind of coffee tiramisu needs to actually taste like tiramisu. Tiramisu needs intense, aromatic, concentrated coffee, the kind that hits you with a buongiorno even if it's 11 p.m. A regular drip machine, that stuff is too light, too watery, too mild, basically the decaf version of what we need. A mocha pot brews under light pressure, which extracts coffee oils, deep roast notes, rich aromatics. These oils cling to the Savoiardi like Velcro and give tiramisu that unmistakable Italian flavor, the one you simply can't fake with filtered coffee. If you want your tiramisu to taste like the real deal, the mocha pot isn't optional, it's the secret weapon. Before we even touch the mascarpone, pour out about 1 liter of coffee into a shallow dish. This gives it time to cool down while we prep the cream, because dipping Savoiardi into hot coffee is how you turn tiramisu into tiramisu soup. And look at that, suddenly have a cup of coffee and a few Savoiardi that didn't quite make the cut for the final dessert. While you sip on that coffee, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Now for the secret weapon behind that unmistakable Italian tiramisu aroma, a splash of Amaretto. You can absolutely make tiramisu without it, but adding Amaretto brings bitter almond notes, caramel sweetness, and warm, nutty aromatics. These flavors amplify the coffee instead of competing with it. Together they create that iconic tiramisu smell, the one you recognize instantly before you even take a bite. Give the coffee a swirl, set it aside to cool completely. Now let's prepare the mascarpone mixture. And yes, we're back to separating yolks from whites again. Make sure no yolks sneak into the whites. One drop and your meringue will collapse faster than a bad souffle. For mascarpone, always use the best brand you can find. Where I live, that's usually Galbani, but when I'm in Italy, I go straight for the fresh stuff, because once you taste fresh mascarpone, you understand why Italians get emotional about dairy. Start by mixing the yolks with sugar until fully combined. Then add the mascarpone little by little, making sure each addition is fully incorporated before adding more. This keeps the mixture smooth, stable, and lump-free. Set that aside and move on to the whites. For the whites, add the sugar directly and whisk until you get a pillow-soft, glossy, homogeneous consistency. Not too stiff, not too loose, just right. Now fold the whites into the mascarpone mixture in parts, using gentle bottom-to-top movements. You're trying to keep as much air as possible, so think clouds, not cement. Once everything is combined, you should end up with a dense, luxurious cream, the kind where you can stick your spatula in and it stands upright like it's posing for a photo. Now it's finally time to assemble this masterpiece, the moment where everything comes together. Grab a container of your choice and start with a thin layer of mascarpone at the bottom. This acts like the foundation of a house, not flashy, but absolutely essential. Next up, the Savoiardi, but before they go in, they need their spa treatment. A quick dip in your cooled coffee amaretto mixture. Make sure they soak properly, but don't let them hold too much liquid. If they come out dripping like they just survived the flood, your tiramisu will turn into a scoopable soup instead of a sliceable dessert. Lay the soaked Savoiardi neatly over the mascarpone, then cover them with another thin layer of mascarpone, just enough to hide them completely. Add your second layer of Savoiardi, give them the same coffee dip, and finish with a generous, luxurious layer of mascarpone on top. This is the layer that makes people close their eyes when they take the first bite. Once you're done, dust the top with cocoa powder like fresh snow on a mountain in the Dolomites. Once you're done, let the tiramisu rest in the fridge for a few hours. This is where the magic happens. The flavors marry, the layers settle, and the whole dessert transforms into the tiramisu you know and love. And there it is, tiramisu, a dessert that lifts me up just by looking at it and sends me straight to heaven with the very first bite. Creamy, airy, coffee-soaked perfection. Thanks for watching, and as always, buon appetito, ciao ciao.